Hey, hey, hey. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Catalyst Energies. My name is Dee. Thank you for joining me. I am so grateful we all made it this far together. So, welcome to the Daily Medicine Transmission. It's February 7th, 2022. It's really, really great to be back in this space. I'm so appreciative of my own health and wellness to at least get me back to this point. So welcome back, everyone. If you're new to this channel, it could happen that today is your first day of being here with us. Welcome. Thanks for being here. And if you like this content, if you find it inspiring and helpful and guides you through your own awakening process, right? Because this is what we're here for. You're awake now, right? So if you're here for the first time or you like this content in any way and you want to support this channel, you can subscribe to the channel regardless of what platform you're finding it on. You can certainly hit that like button. It actually does feed data into the algorithm, and you can certainly share this content with people that you think will also find it valuable, and you can also comment, and that makes a difference as well. So hello everyone, and a special hello and welcome to, and certainly a lot of patience and just thank you, extra special thank you to my subscribers on Subscribestar, people who are investing not only in me, but in themselves on a monthly basis. It's a small nominal fee, but I want to acknowledge that I haven't been doing anything. There have no transmissions, no content to speak of since last Wednesday when I fell ill with the kooky roo-roo. So, and I have no way of knowing if that's the case, but I can tell you this is different than any flu I've ever had, that's for sure. And Seth, he got a home test and his came out positive. And we know, right? We know all of the issues around all of these things, but I can say for sure what I'm experiencing in my own body and my subjective experience of it, which is a very first house thing for an Aquarius person to have at the new moon. So very interesting to get this illness or whatever you want to call it at this point. So it's very I've had the kooky two other times as far as I know. One was in 2019 when I was traveling in Western and Central Europe. We both had it at different times during that time, and then right after that I got something similar to that again as I was making the transition from the East Coast of the US back to Portland in December 2019. And I think a lot of people reported that time frame as having an illness that was that fit the bill, right? And so I had what amounted to at first just like a cold, but I had the worst vertigo I've ever had in my life. I've never had vertigo like that before, where the world literally shifted on its side, like out of nowhere. So yeah, really bizarre, but these symptoms are very strange. They're really, really strange. So I'm just glad to be in a position right now where I can even stream and I can function and be functional, right? Because some things are very heightened, like my sense of smell for anything nasty or gross is just through the roof. It's really hard. It's really hard to handle when you can smell like it was the biggest smell ever when something is off, right? And so that's a very interesting thing to happen. And then to have an appetite but not be able to eat anything really. It's just been an interesting week basically of moving through this illness. So I'm just glad to be back. It's going to be, I know it's going to be a long recovery. People who have been sick recently with these same symptoms have all reported the same thing. It's a very long lasting recovery. I'm doing all the good things that I know I need to do. My vitamin D is already at a maintenance level every day. The vitamin C, the quercetin, I'm now using sweet wormwood, which is very antiviral, and I would recommend that you look into that sweet wormwood for antiviral in general, right? There's research that's been done not only for the kooky, but also all kinds of viral issues, Lyme's disease, and now it's even being used in like an adjunct treatment for cancer treatment as well. So anything that you know that you can grow, right, that comes from a seed, I think is a really good idea to get familiar with in terms of antiviral. But as well, the quercetin is always, and if you need to go that next step, you get hydroxychloroquine, of course. I mean, I don't even know if I can still say that on YouTube without getting a strike on some level. Maybe we'll see if the bots show up. So I'm happy that you're here for a live too, Meg. It's really, really good to see you. Welcome back. My senses still aren't right 6 months later. Okay, yeah. See, that's one of the primary. That seems to be one of the primary symptoms is the sense of taste and smell. It's definitely not gone. I can still taste and I can still smell, but there's something very different about it, right? Like I said, if it's not completely fresh and if there's anything off about anything, I'm smelling it in a way that I have never experienced before. It's really disconcerting. And it's also disconcerting that Alex K is saying that his senses still aren't right 6 months later after being exposed. So I think that maybe there is permanent damage. Clearly, if we're going to talk about the shedding from the jabby jab, then there is something to be said for that, because there are changes being made in people's, obviously with the spiky thing, the spiky protein. I don't even know what I can say anymore. I really actually don't care at this point. So I'm just going to say, because we have this little cul-de-sac of reality that nobody, sentient symptoms. Oh my God. Oh my God. What's interesting about that though, is that I feel like a completely different person now. There was such a massive overhaul at a cellular level that I think that might be part of what's going on. It's pretty remarkable what's happening. So, the best thing you can do, I've been doing a lot of steams inhalations with certain essential oils. That's been really helping keeping the passageways clear. Like I said, the sweet wormwood, quercetin, vitamin C and zinc, of course, vitamin D. I take my cell salts every day. I really recommend, if you're not taking cell salts, that you look into it and get that into your thing. Many people are saying how it was a major spiritual upgrade. Yeah, I could totally see that. Considering how incredibly, Meg, thank you for making that. And considering the fact that it was so close to the new moon and Imbolc and the Chinese New Year, I mean, I pretty much got sick the day after the new moon. What's going on? Mercury is now direct, right? So we'll get into all the astrology, of course, and I have a reading to share for today's transmission as well. So there's still a lot to share, and we'll see how far I get, right? There's going to be a lot of naps in my future and a lot of rest, because it does appear it's going to be a long haul for the immune system. But I do feel like I'm going through, personally, like a huge purge in a way that I haven't gone through in a really long time. Now, the last time I had it, when I had the vertigo, that was right after my walk-in experience. I had all these different experiences related to that, and I'm trying not to close my eyes when I'm speaking to you guys, but one of the symptoms too is this massive brain fog, right? It's a little bit more difficult to stay clear-headed and to access mental information. And so sometimes in order to access that information right now, I kind of have to concentrate a little bit more. So, but the last time I had this, and I had the vertigo, I had my walk-in experience, right before that, not even, maybe 6 weeks before that was the original walk-in. And then I had all kinds of action, right, if you want to call it that. I had an off-world experience, let's just put it that way. And what else happened? There was just a lot of really profound things that happened before the December 2019 infection. So your body is going through and, doing all this work. And so it's not surprising that people would experience it as a major spiritual upgrade or even ascension symptoms. But it's important not to necessarily get caught up in the ascension symptom thing entirely, and not acknowledge your physical body and what's going on with that, because you have to still support the physical body as it's going through this process. And those are, we've learned now over the course of 2 years, like specifically antiviral stuff that keeps the virus from replicating within the cells. So there's a lot happening for all of us. So I want to not focus so much on what's going on with me, although what is going on with me appears to be connected to all of this. But at the same time, I want to be able to get into the astrology. It's been like a week since the new moon, since Imbolc, right? And what is Imbolc other than the time frame between the winter solstice and the equinox, or the December solstice and the March equinox? Imbolc is that halfway point, right? And it does represent on some level the return of the light. We know that the light is returning with the solstice, and this is kind of that first time where it's actually visible. So one of the things that really tipped me off that things were changing, and that we can trust the natural process of things, right? The natural progression of seasons and of nature in general, was that there were aspects in my makeshift greenhouse that I have in my house. There were things that needed to be brought to a light cycle. See, this is what I'm talking about. It's very difficult to mental clarity and the mental realm right now. So there was a plant that I had to cut down all the way down to the soil because it was so, this is a really good analogy. There was a plant that I had to cut down all the way down to the soil because it was so infested with a particular type of pest. And so I cut it out. I cut it down to the soil, hoping that the root systems were strong enough. This is so relevant to today's reading as well, that I was just like, well, let's see if it comes back. And lo and behold, when it all came back, when the sun cycle started to return, there was a little sprout that came up from the soil that I didn't think we were going to get it back. So I'm really excited about that. All the new baby plants that I've been, trying to support building new shoots, like all the cuttings, they all started to give their little shoots, or starting to come out too. So I'm really excited about that too. So we know that there's a natural process that we can trust, and the moon is in Taurus today, and so this is a personalized and strong connection to this that we each are going to have during this time. So I'm kind of looking forward to this major spiritual upgrade, of course, but I also, it's definitely a difficult process. And one thing I noticed is that it fully cut me off from everything, like all the, everything that I was engaged with online, in terms of information and my work, and even just paying attention to what's going on out there. It forced it all away. Like, it forced me into such a strong sense of, it forced me to a strong experience of going within during this time, which is interesting because the beginning of the lunar cycle is still, the moon is in luminosity. And so there is this inner experience, I feel like, that's needed to, oh man. It's just very difficult to keep myself. Oh my gosh. It's just very difficult right now to keep a thought. So I'm going to do my best not to be rambling as much as possible right now. So, but I do get the sense that there is something very important that comes about as a result of this, right? That we can let go of all of the outside distractions and outside, focus, so that the body and that the inner self can really put some effort and some focus and have the energy necessary in order to do the inner purge that is absolutely necessary, and which is what is part of your immune system. So remember, this is just a remember here, right? that the immune system needs all kinds of support. So don't forget your deep breathing, right? Because this is how your immune system, your lymph is going to flow and move through your lymphatic system, deep diaphragmatic breathing. So don't forget your breathing, right? Again, like sweating is incredible. If you can do any kind of passive sweating while you're sick, and if you're not sick and you can do active sweating, that's even better because you're moving your lymph through muscle contraction, and you are, allowing your body to let go of all of the toxins very easily through the sweating, the process of sweating. So there's a lot to be said for not only the physical health, but how it will purge at an energetic level as well. So I'm just going to give that over to this situation. So I'm really appreciating the fact that people are here and that they're checking in, and for everybody that checked in and left kind words on, or checked in with me personally, or was able to leave any kind of, kind words here on Telegram, or comments in any of the videos. I really do appreciate that, and it means a lot. And we're going to see in today's transmission how important it is to be grounded emotionally and spiritually in some sort of community. Now, the moon in Taurus is kind of great for this because the moon is exalted in Taurus. It's at home in Taurus. There is a sense of physical comfort that comes along with Taurus that the moon is able to find a sense of emotional security in, right? Since the moon is at home in Cancer and requires at some level this ability to hold firm within the lattice structure of your family, your emotional relationships, that which you belong to. There's a lot of Cancerian elements and a lot of the physical nature of Taurus and the physical nature of just the world around us that often will support us emotionally as well. And so this is getting brought up today in the transmission that we're going to see. So it's, wow. I look forward to being back in a mental state where I can track my own thoughts and what I have to share with you, and not have to take so much time to reassess that or to access those mental realms, because it's very difficult right now. And I'm sure that there is something to be said about that, right? Of not being able to access the mental realm as easily as we normally would, and kind of making us a little bit brain dead. I wonder who benefits from something like that. I don't know. But I do feel like that I'm going through a massive metamorphosis right now, and also within my own self. Remember the new moon that we talked about in terms of it represents specifically, us becoming a fine-tuned instrument. And so what does this mean? Perhaps there's going to be more perhaps there's going to be more of this to come. I think that we've all been kind of waiting for that to some extent. We've been experiencing it at other levels. I know that's the case. I mean, all you have to do is look at Israel, and you will get an idea of what to expect when you have that type of population so strongly, strongly surrounded by these particular medical interventions and what to expect. So I'm actually grateful to have gotten the kooky ruru now, as opposed to maybe later, because it's going to be the full moon. And we've talked about this. This is not new. So, boy. Oh my friends. So how is everyone, just in general? I'm just curious how people are doing, and if they're taking good care of themselves, please do so. It's very important that you are taking good care of your body, taking good care of your soul and your mind and your heart and all of the things. And just know that the more jibby jabs, right, the more cootie sticks that are brought forward, the more potential for the shedding, right? So, and we have to be very mindful of this. I went to my nephew's birthday party at some place it's like a kid's casino. You know how it is an arcade. And I'm pretty sure, it's just full of people who are probably got the, the cootie stick. So the shedding, I think, is very, very real. And I've always thought that, but I wasn't sure. But so again, it's really important that we're taking as good care of ourselves as we can. So it's feeling lighter here. Oh, really? That's a good thing. That's a very good thing. You're going to need that lightness when the full moon is on its way. You really, really are. It's whew wee. I don't even know. I mean, I've talked endlessly about it. So, all right, guys. Oh, and by the way, I mean, we know that the solar weather was so intense over the last week. I mean, if you've been paying attention at all, and there's more CMEs coming, right? But the solar weather and the Schumann actually like amplified quite a bit over the last week. So that certainly didn't help anything either. To have all of that intense solar activity and the Schumann to be moving around and to be amplified was also not helping the scenario of feeling comfortable at all. So boy, oh boy. So I just want to, the images and the astrology, the archetypes, they're going to speak for themselves. So I'm just going to allow that part to start happening, because otherwise, I'm just going to get caught in a loop here in terms of what to say and how to transmit what is coming through. So my friends, here we go. We're going to start with today's reading. Things are different for me in a good way for me, like 180%. Yes, yes, that's so good. I got sick the first time I went to a kids museum. Yeah, that's totally it, dude. And it's not even the kids; it's all the parents, right? It was like it happened so quickly. Alex, I'm so pleased to hear that. So pleased. Oh, there are the bots. It didn't take long, did it? It took no time, at all for them to come in. So, all right, guys, let's get into this, reading today. And I really appreciate people's patience. I am not on point 100%. My own intuitive channel is stuffy as well. And full disclosure, I know that this reading has a lot of bleed over or a lot of me in this. So I'm hoping, and I have no problem putting that out there. And I'm really hoping that what my own energetic read here that's coming out in this reading is can be something for other people as well. Because I really see a lot of myself in this, but I also, just looking at the astrology, looking at the week's astrology leading up to it, right? We had the new moon, we had Saturn and the sun come into a conjunction in Aquarius. We have Mercury has now stationed direct. We have the nodes are back in the position. The nodes aren't back. The nodes are in the position specifically that the full moon lunar eclipses. Remember, we talked about this. We talked about it when it happened, that when this, and what's really cool actually is when we look at the chart, we'll go back and look at that chart of the beginning of this eclipse cycle, which was the full moon lunar eclipse. With the moon in Taurus. And now this is where the nodes are, right? The nodes are in Taurus and Scorpio at this particular degree. Well, you're going to find that Venus is in the exact same place as it was in November, right? So we are coming, there's a loop that's coming back around right now, which we anticipated. There are things that are certainly different. And when you look at the chart, you see that everything has shifted over to the side of the chart where it's all about the collective, right? And we're also going to see with that shifting of the chart that, Neptune is direct now, Chiron's direct now, Uranus is direct now. So in November, when this was, when there's this overlap that is now happening, back then when the eclipse season first started, there was all of these retrogrades. Now it's a different story. It's like whatever was happening then, like I said, just like any other eclipse, it's something that it's distorted. It's not fully expressed. Well, now there's nothing getting in the way, and the nodes are so powerful on their own that they are really pulling us in that direction. And so now we are experiencing something that was only alluded to with that eclipse in November. But you're going to see the overlap with things, and you're going to see that Mars has moved locations, that all of these outer planets are now direct. Jupiter's in Pisces now, as opposed to Aquarius at that point. So there are some changes, but there are a lot of things that are the same, and it would be worth it, I think, to go back and not only look at the astrology, but to go back and to, listen to the emergence video again and get an idea and retrospective astrology seems to, for me, I love doing that. I love going back and looking at the patterns. I mean, it's very analytical. I mean, we have Hilarion in this reading today. So I think taking the time to kind of go back and look at what has transpired, where the patterns are, where they're overlapping, I think it gives a lot of insight in what to expect maybe. And this was the whole new moon, right? To become a fine-tuned instrument in order to anticipate and make reasonable forecasts about how the collective is going to change. And I, whew, oh, that felt good. I haven't channeled anything like that in over a week, and so I can feel it moving through. So that's really nice. So let's get into it. All right, I'm gonna make sure that the chat's doing good. Seeing how things really are, and they're better than I thought. I'm loving the personal touch. It's totally relevant. Yeah, I feel like it is too. And I that type of we can all have that type of input, right? Everybody, and that's the thing about Aquarius. Everything is relevant. Everybody's personal experience, Leo, is relevant to the full structure of the collective. And we may not have fully understood it. And even like what Alex K is saying, seeing how things really are, it's so much better than it was. And that's a really It's a really important thing to consider, because you go back to November where the eclipses started and you're like, I don't see how any of this could be, how is this really going to unfold? How many people really anticipated in November about the convoy, right? Like, I'm sure that there are some people that had insight into that in terms of their own intuitive channel, right? Their own ability to tap in, their own prophecy, whatever. But to come back and see now what started and what has rippled at the moment, and now what is part of our what's part of our own ability to change, and our own soul's journey now is very much part of what's going on. And there is acceleration. I mean, it seems pretty clear to me that there's now an acceleration and a sense of consolidation as well. When we look at the chart, that'll make more sense how everything is shifted into the chart. There's acceleration because all these outer planets. Pluto is in the degree of the natal, so we're in this Pluto return window right now as well. And of course, the Mercury is now direct, right? Mercury is direct. It's going to move. It's going to meet Pluto again, and it's going to then come into Aquarius. So there is acceleration, there's movement, there is a direction that seems to be moving forward, and it's very much connected to things that started in November, right, with this eclipse. And we still have the rest of this eclipse cycle. There's no doubt about that. We still have until April and May, in particular, till the next cycle, the cycle ends and the next one begins. And yeah, this is an important time right now for us to get into ourselves and get into a new frame of mind, right? The thing about the position of the North Node being the same degree, basically, as the eclipsed full moon in November is that it has to do with new beginnings. And the thing about Imbolc is it's that first recognition in nature that the cycle is coming to an end and beginning, right? That it's turning over. And you get that by seeing, there may be, this is the time of year when you start really preparing to sow your seeds, at least in the Northern Hemisphere, right? Like, it's really not fair obviously, to consider these things. But I mean, most of the Druid, Celtic, pagan religions that these or spiritual and cultural contexts that these festivals were based on are based on the Northern Hemisphere. So that's something to keep in mind too. But it really does have a lot to do with setting the tone and the stage for the next cycle coming back around. So the materium, let's start here. Maybe. This mouse. Okay, guys. So here we go. This is a great causal factor, the devil, right? Number 15 breaks down to 6, right? Did you ever wonder about 666? I mean, some people probably do. Some people are so like conditioned to be afraid of it that they can't even like think straight about it. Some people are completely caught up in this. But you know, 6 is the number of carbon on the periodic table. So that's something to keep in mind because we are talking about the materium here, right? You can see very clearly these individual humanoid shapes trapped into 2 sex cells that are splitting in meiosis, right? And we've talked endlessly about the devil card and what it represents, right? It represents Capricorn, right? It represents the cardinal earth energy that is unfolding. It represents the material matrix that we're all part of. So when you get trapped here and you can't see beyond it or don't acknowledge spirit beyond it or something very real beyond it, then you are trapped. You're trapped in the cycle of karma. You're trapped in the cycle of death and rebirth, right? You're trapped in the genetic line that unfolds over and over and over if you don't acknowledge that there is more to this. And when you don't acknowledge that there is more to this life than the material expression of it, this is where you get trapped. And you get trapped into giving your energy over to that which you identify as the ruler of this kingdom, right? The devil. So when it's reversed, right? When it's reversed, we can either find ourselves, so this is Saturn at its darkest, and there are negative aspects, obviously, and positive aspects, too, of being part of this material world, right? This is part of Earth School. We came into 3D as fifth density beings in this universe, and parts of God to come into this experience. So when it's reversed, it could represent a lot of different things, but looking at the whole reading here and certainly looking at where this is positioned in its reversal, there is something falling away. And we know this. I mean, Pluto and Capricorn, right? Mercury has now stationed direct, and so it had been retrograde in this. And we have Venus that's here, Mars that's here, and really releasing a lot of the bonds that are ready to be released in the first place. So sometimes when you read this card, if you are reading it from an esoteric perspective that, how do I say this? If you're reading it from an esoteric perspective that puts the devil at a much more positive view, as in the ability to acknowledge your sovereignty, right? That you don't serve. And I really don't like that read because the reality is that we all have to serve the materium that we're part of when we are part of it. So I don't really like that read that it's like the read of Lucifer and how he, said, I'm not serving, I'm not here to serve, I am free. So when it's reversed, if you do read it that way, there's a tendency to read it as if you are, as if you are, see, this is what I'm talking about. It's very difficult right now. As if you're an outcast, or that you are somehow misdirected, or you're lonely, right? That you are pushed away from being part of the fold. I think that ultimately in a very simple way, this has to do with the negative aspects of being part of a socio-political order, being part of a healthcare system, being part of an economy, and that there is no getting around the positive and negative aspects of this experience. And if you are relying on the materium as your sense of security as yourself, then you're really going to struggle with this being reversed, because this is the experience of it all falling away. So whatever it is, there's a set, and people will act out when this is happening. This is not new information. We know what this is about, but this is really bringing it into this actual reality. Now, things like the convoy, right? That could be this reversed as well, because it is really turning that control mechanism on its head, right? That the people have become in control of the matrix when it gets turned on its head, right? So that's something to consider as well. Now, what I think is really interesting about this reading here is that we've gone from this reversal of the devil. We've had this card already, the virtue, but now it's reversed, and it is definitely so. The thing that came to my mind originally when I pulled this, the phrase that snapped out at me was just like the best laid plans, right, of mice and men. So here's our virtue, but it's reversed, right? And virtue is not about being necessarily a good person for the sake of receiving some sort of accolade. The Three of Wands is about the responsibility that's realized in terms of our own potential to be, right? And to create something or to transform something. So the sun in Aries is when springtime happens. And so the Three of Wands is that first really balanced effect of the responsibility of one's experience being one's experience here, being in a position of potential, in a position of transformation, a position of creation, right? So when it's reversed, you can really overestimate yourself when it's reversed, right? Because the sun in Aries is just like all of the potential is not only presented like the Two of Wands, but there's something very significant that stabilizes it, or something very significant that gives it a form that lets you know that there is something to this. So when it's reversed here, there is an overestimation of self, right? And so there can be moodiness or insolence or rudeness, all of the fun Aries things that are so all the fun Aries things that when, especially with the moon in Aries, up until the last day or so, this could have been really emotionally brought forward, or you could have found yourself really experiencing inflammation in the body, right? Because the moon in Aries, I get that a lot too. But this overestimation of oneself seems to come out really strongly, at least for me, right? Because I thought I was doing pretty good, right? I was feeling great. I hadn't felt any like aches and pains or pain, anything like that leading up to this, and then bam, right? And so something got turned around, and now sitting here in the moment is this overestimation, realizing this overestimation of myself. And that doesn't mean I did anything wrong, doesn't mean that there's something wrong with me just because I got the kooky roo-roo. But you do, I feel like that this is something that everybody may experience on different levels, because it's not going to just be with illness. There may be other aspects that are expressing themselves as overestimation, being really conceited about something, as well, or being just really rude. That seems to be the case as well. So we see here just in these two factors that something very significant has like shifted in the materium, in the social political order, in the economy, in the healthcare system, in society as a material structure. And in the moment is a sense of overestimation, and the virtue that we maybe had felt is experiencing something if we don't realize or recognize it for what it is, right, then you can see how all of these different representations can come forward of overestimation and being rude and being insolent and conceited, right? Not acknowledging that something got turned on its head, or that perhaps we haven't really fulfilled our understanding of the darker side of the materium and what that means, right? We have to accept what that actually means. And two, something to consider as well is that Saturn is in Aquarius, and it rules Aquarius as well. It's co-ruler of Aquarius as well as Capricorn. So it rules Capricorn, but co-rules Aquarius. And there's a lot of protection that's needed right now, right? There is a degree that Saturn is in that really brings forward the necessity for some sort of protection. And that's part of this experience of being in a collective that is all together as one, is that you also are part of everything that happens. And that has to do also with infection, for instance, right? That's so much more experienced in Pisces. And I think as much as Jupiter in Pisces is an amazing position, you can see how expanding into the realm that we're all connected in at a energetic level and a feeling level could easily turn into an expansion of potential infection as well. So, and again, just like was brought up earlier, I mean, there can be some incredible awakening. There can be an incredible experience of purging and massive upgrade that can happen with this. So Jupiter is, yes, still very much part of this. But I do feel like that there's a very real experience here that maybe it's checking us a little bit. And I can say personally that I have to get certain things in my body under control, right? I have other conditions that lead to viral load that definitely pushed me over the edge with whatever the kooky-roo-roo is, regardless of what you think it is, or what you experience it to be, whether it's a pathogen that you receive, if it's the result of certain frequencies, whatever it is. I think we've all been checked on some level here, and this is what it's representing. So when we look down here and okay, we're gonna see here that here we go. Where is our emotional and energetic root and our power? Well, it's in the community, right? This is very Cancerian, and especially with the moon in Taurus right now, because we have the 5 of Keys surrounding it, and then the dog. I mean, the dog is, is in the sign, Canis Major is in the sign of Cancer, the constellation, right? Sirius is the dog star, Canis Major. It's in the sign of Cancer in the sky. So where we can draw our power from, well, I would say the community, right? Whatever the community is for us, spiritual community, our actual family, the people that we surround ourselves with, that we are faithful to, that we are loyal to, who are loyal to us, that are there to have our back, right? And that there is a time now to either join or rejoin this group, right? There may be new friends or family that come around as a result of this, and a community that grounds you into your personal power. And this is very important, very important. So maybe, this can take a lot of different perspectives. This can take a lot of different shapes, I guess you could say, but it's important to acknowledge for yourself, like, what is the community? What is that area of personal life and personal power that grounds you? Because this is where I think we're really going to be stabilized as there is change coming, and as we see in this reading, and as we know is the case. So the Sangha. Now, this is interesting. The journey is the Seven of Roses. This is, right behind here is the Seven of Roses. And when it's reversed like this really does suggest a delay, a delayed move, a delayed journey. It really suggests that the ship will return when the time is right, whatever that ship is. And it's important to be patient and attend to what's right in front of you. So when we're talking about what's going on up here in our conscious awareness, in our upper chakras, right, when we release this power into consciousness or conscious awareness and attention, there's a sense here that, we need to be patient, and maybe it's not time to go on this emotional journey quite yet. And I would argue, considering how much of this down at the bottom here, right? The Eight of Roses, our emotional connection to our family or to our community, that which sustains us and we sustain with our love and our bonds, right? With the dog being the faithful servant, right? And then the Five of Keys also about the wishes fulfilled in a very material way. It's like we're at a pause moment and realizing that where we're trying to get to, either emotionally or spiritually, is at a pause for some reason. And again, this goes along with like the getting flipped on our heads here in the material socio-political sphere, or in the larger extended family, right? That's a very Capricorn thing. In the larger institutions, governments, right? I mean, you could really quite easily look at what's happening in Canada and see this flipped on its head, right? Like, there's no coming back for the PM of Canada after this. There's just not. I mean, I would be really shocked if we went back to business as usual with him. So that's one way. But either way, something has got flipped on its head, which is really giving us a moment to pause and our own transformational energy, our own sense of virtue. And this is not a negative thing. Again, it's just, we have to be real with ourselves that maybe we were getting ahead of ourselves. Perhaps there are aspects that need pause. And I would say, based on this reading, absolutely. Now, the Seven of Roses, right? The journey. So even a spiritual journey, maybe it is an emotional journey. Maybe it's a physical journey. Whatever it is that we've been focusing on, it is at a pause, and we have to pay attention to what's right in front of us, right? Because it's very easy to get pulled into the drama that is happening all around us as if that is right in front of us. And for some people, it is right in front of them. And that's what they're here to do. But if you are like me and what's right in front of you is dealing with an illness right in front of your face, then focusing on trying to get anywhere else is going to be will be a setback. And there's something here that is necessary for us to like really check ourselves, right? The shark is about trusting your instincts. And then Hilarion, here's another 5, right? Is about concrete knowledge. It is about evidence detection. It is about really studying and really learning something. So something is at pause here. And it's not that we'll never go, whatever it is. It's just that there is something very powerful about staying right where you are and grounding down into the systems and the structures that are sustaining you, that you are sustaining, because there is, in fact, change coming, right? And we know this. This is not exactly, like, whoa, what? There's change coming. Two of Discs is change, the natural change, right? You see the Ouroboros, you see the crown on the snake, right? The corona, the yin and yang, right? And the idea, and if you look at the Rider-Waite deck, right, it's a person that is juggling, and it looks like the figure 8. So we know that there is a natural change coming, right? It's not necessarily abrupt. It's something that has been part of, the unfolding process for a while now. Two of Discs is Jupiter in Capricorn, right? Is Jupiter now coming out of Sag? It's not literally, at least in Western astrology. It's the idea that there's still flexibility in the very first moments of Capricorn that are very natural change. And it's all part of the natural balance of the universe. And so even if we are struggling right now to like take a pause, or to maybe get real with ourselves about what our our creative potential actually is at this moment, knowing that there is still change coming. That's not stopping. And again, it's about being rooted here into something very emotionally, very feeling based, very spiritually very strong in order to, ride this wave, so to speak. So there is some good guidance. I mean, I pretty much already spoke to it, but we'll just look at it for now. The Five of Keys, right? This is the wishes fulfilled with the moon in Taurus right now. Again, we're going to feel emotional stability through some sort of material comfort, which is going to be very interesting because the moon's going to be meeting Uranus today, of course. And so we may, again, this is a good opportunity to not try to do anything necessarily. Allow the pause so that there could be some very the psychic insight with the moon and Uranus together like this, especially when the moon is strong. I mean, it may not be obvious right away, but there is insight. There is, there's that psychic connection that may be a lot stronger than we anticipated with the moon and Uranus together, especially in terms of the physical. And this is just suggesting that, again, that wishes fulfilled, dreams realized. Again, it has to do with our spiritual and our emotional bonding as opposed to gathering all of these material aspects together. This is a representation. And the other way around too, like the moon in Taurus is going to feel a sense of emotional security by being embedded in the world around us emotionally, right? This is where, as an Aquarius rising person, having my fourth house be Taurus, I mean, here we go. This is very much part of my bleeding over into this reading. It's just the emotional security in the personal life is very much found through things like material comforts and all of the dreams being realized or just your physical needs and wants being attended to. So, but the dog is very interesting here because, again, this is very Cancerian, and your loyalty and faithfulness are misplaced by serving too many masters. Again, we get really pulled in so many directions right now in all of, there is a lot to lose for certain groups of people to not have the undivided attention or divided attention, I would even say, of a lot of people in this world. And so whom are you serving, right? I mean, it's important to recognize that because it's going to be that area that is going to ground you and us emotionally. So if you're serving too many masters, right, if your energy is being dissipated in too many directions, then you may find yourself really not having a strong core in order to attach to. And again, this is important to consider as we move forward. Now, what's interesting about this Seven of Roses, I really had to think about this, and the shark, again, trust your instincts to discern the truth of the situation. This is about trusting your gut. Now, if you haven't had the chance to do this already, it's important to realize that your instincts and your gut can be modified by certain things, right? And that's been happening for a long time in various different ways. So that's important to consider as well, that we want to trust our gut. And I have people that come to me that will say, I don't know what it feels like, or I don't know if I can trust it, right? And that's okay to question, because your gut and your instinct can be modified by a very concerted campaign, and that's something to consider as well. And this is why Hilarion is so important, because it is through our ability to gather information, to detect actual evidence, to gather concrete knowledge, to look for truth and draw conclusions that we really discover whether or not our gut has been, and our instinct has been modified, or it is true to what we want, or what true in terms of its ability to guide us in the right direction. And when it comes down to it, your body is going to tell you what it needs. And maybe there are a number of layers that have to be gone through in order to get to that point. This really does, again, you can see these two fives in this relationship here. Five of Keys, and then Hilarion, the Ascended Master, is five. This idea that, five is the pinnacle, right? It may still be the pinnacle of the material world, but it is still the pinnacle. And we have to be able to have something to reference our own instinct. And the only real, like, mind-oriented, besides Aquarius, right? Black Moon Lilith right now is in Gemini, right? And that's about it. So, we don't have any, unless you start getting into the minutia of like all the different asteroids and stuff, there is no other Gemini other than Ceres is going to move into conjunction with Alcyon today as well. So again, there is a connection to the changes in the seasons. There's a connection to the necessity of the underworld and the process of going within. That is represented by the story of Persephone and Ceres, the goddess of the grain and agriculture and seasons. So she's gonna meet Alcyon today. So there will be some more focus. Juno is in Aquarius right now, so there is some of this focus on the mental realm that's starting to build back up in terms of the sacred feminine and these goddess representations. But ultimately, what I see, obviously, is that there is change, natural change, harmonious change, something that we can identify as change that is on its way, and regardless of how we feel about it or what we've already experienced, it's still coming. And there's something about being very grounded emotionally, being sure and clear about where we belong and what is truly fulfilling our wishes here. Whom do we serve, right? Are we serving ourselves and the community that is going to have our back? Are we going to serve the emotional stability that is going to keep us grounded when things do change? And there's something here that our attention is focused right now on the fact that something doesn't seem like it's moving forward, or that we something is getting delayed. But this is a perfect opportunity to really use our discernment, really use our evidence detection, right? Really use our concrete knowledge and our ability to figure out what is truth, right? That's a big part of what Hilarion represents. There's just a very significant message here that pause and to be very aware. And I know that for me personally, I've had no choice. I've absolutely had no choice but to stop. Right? No, I can't get engaged in what's happening out there. I can't get engaged in all these plans I had for like moving Catalyst forward. Like everything came to a screeching halt because it was clear that this is in fact the area that needs to be addressed and to have my attention. And not everybody, maybe not everybody's going to have that experience, but I think that there is something here for everybody that can be applied to their actual life. So all right, guys. So that's the reading for today. So I'm going to bring up the astrology chart and see how that goes. I really appreciate everybody who's sticking with it or, being patient with this process, as I am attempting to function in a way that I've just went ahead and told everybody like, oh, I can't do this, because this is, oh boy. Let me take a sip of this real quick, guys. I'm going to turn off the mic so you don't have to hear it. Hold on. All right, my friends. So let's take a look here at the astrology. So one thing is to keep in mind here is that tomorrow on the 8th is the... Oh my God, this mouse is a nightmare. I think I just get a new one. One thing that is pretty clear is that tomorrow is going to be our first quarter square, meaning that the sun in Aquarius is going to be in a square to the moon in Taurus. So you can see here, let's just kind of go to where it is right now, maybe. Yeah. So the moon is in a sextile to Jupiter right now. It's going to be in a trine to Mars. There's going to be a trine to Venus. It's going to meet Uranus today. And so a lot of really favorable connections that the moon is making today. I don't, in terms of major transits, it's all sextiles and trines, right? So, and when we talk about that, it's going to be sextile to Pisces and then trines to all this Capricorn energy. And then, of course, meeting Uranus. So let's go through this one piece at a time here. So the first thing is that there's a quickening happening. And I already talked about that, and I already talked about the acceleration, and that Jupiter seems to be part of this. Well, this is really reflected right now in the position that Jupiter is at 8 to 9 degrees of Pisces, right? There is a spurring forward here and a quickening that is, and a very intense mobilization that's coming about as a result of the some sort of like push forward for the sake of your performance for humanity, right? And so Jupiter has no problem doing that, right? Just expanding this space, and it is a quickening, right? It is this intense mobilization. So the sextile to the moon in Taurus in this moment, again, if we can tap in within us, right? This goes into the reading so well. If you can tap in within ourselves, the faith in the cycle of renewal, the ability to make happiness in dark times, right? That's symbolized the most by a decorated Christmas tree. What does that have to do with that? Well, you bring a tree in, the Yule tree, you bring it in from the outside, and and you decorate it, right? And so what you're doing is creating an experience of happiness and joy with the natural world, knowing that outside is dark and cold and dreary and all of the things that are associated with winter, for instance. But from an esoteric perspective, we are looking at the ability internally and emotionally, again, to be able to find happiness in a dark time. And when we can tap into this, right? And how do you do that? You do that with your family, right? Whatever your family means to you, you're bringing that experience into this small cohort of people, your family, right? Your spiritual community, whatever it is, you bring it in, and we each are having this experience, or this potential experience right now of creating happiness in these dark moments, because we have faith in what's coming. We have faith in the change. We know that the change is coming. And not just with the reading and not just feeling, but like this particular degree of Taurus. And the sextile, right? We can apply this to what I feel like is a very uncomfortable acceleration, right? And we are being really, our boundaries are being pushed, I think, in a way that maybe, at least for me, I'm not used to, haven't been in a while, right? I mean, my boundaries were pushed over the last week in terms of what I'm doing, how I'm feeling, trusting my own body. So at this point, we can apply this trust and this faith in the natural cycles to a pretty expansive quickening that Jupiter is representing. So there's our first opportunity right here to activate and find some sort of, I wouldn't say solace necessarily, but find reminding ourselves at an emotional level that we have the capacity to handle the expansion and the accelerated quickening in terms of the collective whole, the spiritual collective whole that Pisces represents. And as we move beyond that, you see that it's from there, like the moon comes into a It comes into a trine with Mars, then it meets Uranus, and keep in mind now Uranus has moved into the next degree in Taurus, so that is significant as well. It's going to change the dynamic of what Uranus represents, which is very radical change, outside of the box thinking, innovation, psychological crisis. And in Taurus, we're talking about a literal shifting of the material landscape itself, whether it has to do with financial resources, material resources, your body's resources, right? That's a big part of Taurus as well, is your actual body itself and its resources. But the moon has a connection to both Mars, Uranus, and Venus. And in Capricorn, well, number one, Mars is in conjunction with the stars of Lyra. So we have a Lyran starseed activation with Mars, who's exalted in Capricorn. So, of course, there's going to be this really strong ambition that Mars has been gathering momentum for while it's been in Capricorn. And just wait till it meets, wait till it meets Venus at the full moon, right? It's going to be a massive release in some ways. So. But the moon, again, in Taurus is giving each of us emotionally and personally some really structurally sound connections to these larger socio-political, institutional things that are, getting turned on their head, right? The devil reversed. And so one is the moon at the degree that... Uranus has been in this whole time up until really today, a woman watering her flowers, right? It's the cultivation that we have of our own resources, right? If we want something beautiful to grow, we have to take the time to nourish and cultivate and condition the medium in which that's going to happen. And so we do this emotionally, we do this within ourselves, right? We do this within our own intuitive landscape, and we find a lot of Mars that is really really finding he's really starting to find its stride now, because Mars in the second decan of Capricorn is that 3 of discs. So as Mars moves into the second decan, it's really hitting its stride in terms of having something to work on, some goal to work towards, an ambition and a fearlessness about it. And so we've been working, and Uranus has not made it easy, but certainly it has been providing the opportunity to find that awakening moment by cultivating the medium of our own growth. And this is a reminder that emotionally, as Mars is pushing forward, there is a structural support mechanism for each of us around the work that we've been doing. And even if we don't want to be doing it, Uranus is making it impossible not to, basically, of cultivating and nourishing the medium of our own growth. And Mars is going to take that and actually work with that, use that, be able to create from that. But it comes from within us first. Then from the moon comes into a conjunction with Uranus right at 11 degrees. So that's the same basic degree here of 11 degrees. And so there may be some insight that we're not really fully aware of psychically or intuitively. It may come as a flash of insight because that's how Uranus works. Or maybe there'll be a sudden change in things. Or maybe it's just we have access to these levels of gnosis or knowledge or knowing or awakening within ourselves when we kind of allow our emotional self to get quiet and our emotional self to find some stability. And then the moon comes into a trine with Venus right after that. And when we look at the chart for the November eclipse, we're going to see that Venus is in the same place it was in November, exact same place. And you know what this is? This is the degree of the January new moon. The first new moon of January 2022 is the same degree. And what is it? A fire worshiper, right? The idea that we are focusing on revering, honoring, and accepting the nature of fire as a symbol that shows that death and rebirth are part of the same process, and you experience them as one and the same with fire. Fire is a symbol. So Venus in your body, right? In your actual body. When it comes to, I experience Venus transits in my actual body a lot of time. And this is again, like I said, Venus is in the same exact place it was at that full moon eclipse, which is the degree now that the nodes are in. So we're, again, going back around. But the trine with this is that it's, there is heavy baggage that we're able to let go of, right? We can feel it within ourselves. And maybe an example of this for me is like in my own experience of my health, right? Or some aspect of my body's health is carrying a heavy baggage that needs to be released. And Venus at this position is reminding us what we spent all of January really developing within ourselves, which is the ability to let it burn away. And so maybe burning away, just like your immune system is what burns away, the unnecessary stuff in your body. Your immune system is what burns away all of the pathogens and allows for everything to get flushed out of your system. So whether it's physical, and I would say in Taurus, I mean, we are talking about the actual mechanisms we are talking that actual physical material mechanism. So whether it's your health, whether it's your financial resources and your assets, whether it's your actual physical reality that you live in, right? Anything that has value to you in an objective way can be filed under Taurus, and anything that is a collection of all of those things into a cohesive structure of many people is what Capricorn represents. And so again, it's falling away, it's burning away, it is getting turned on its head, like the Devil card reversed, and it's something that we are ascribing value to, or that we are feeling the value of. And again, this has a lot to do with burning away that which is holding us back, basically. And it could be very uncomfortable. But it's not as uncomfortable as carrying all that heavy baggage, as far as I'm concerned. So again, these are really very helpful moon transits while the moon is in Taurus. And, one last thing I'd like to bring up, since we are talking about the nodes here, and then I'm going to show you the connection here with the November eclipse, is that Pallas Athena is also in a sextile to the North Node. You can't see her on this chart, but she's at 27 to 28 degrees Pisces. And so that means in a direct sextile, and then in a direct trine over here to the South Node in Scorpio. And so Pallas Athena is, goddess of strategy and wisdom. And what is this strategy and wisdom that she's representing right now? Well, it's a fertile garden under the full moon reveals a variety of full-grown vegetables. That's the Sabian symbol. And it's the full satisfaction of the individual's basic needs, okay? It's like when you everything that we need, and this is the strategy, right? We have everything we need. It's right in front of us. We've been cultivating it the whole time. And this is the strategy that we probably likely want to employ in some ways. And this, yes, it is very structurally supportive of where we've been, which is the South Node in Scorpio. But it also is allowing an activation and investment into where we're headed, which does have to do with the change, right? The changeover at the end of the end of a cycle, right? Just like the woman goes from the role of mother into the role of crone as a result of menopause. That doesn't mean it's over. It means that part is over. And there is a strategy here that Pallas Athena represents to remind us that we have our own individual basic needs are fully satisfied from the collective spiritually. Everything we need spiritually and energetically and anything else from a social collective standpoint is we have it. It's fully satisfied, right? This is the strategy that we can utilize and apply that to the nodal axis, which is now fully engaged with the letting go of that which is over, right? It is a system it is part of our own progression that we need to let go of, right? Just like a woman who reaches menopause isn't sorry guys, isn't it doesn't make you any less alive or any less available to engage with the world around you. It's just a new cycle, and I feel like this has so much to do with what's going on right now, like a new cycle, and not like just an end as like a full end, which it could be seen as. That certainly could. Tomorrow is going to be, like I said, the first quarter square of the Aquarius sun and the Taurus moon, and then it will cross her own north node. So we'll do the weekly astrology tomorrow, where we'll look at the second lunar quarter leading up to the full moon and get started on the actual forecasts, right? A whole week went by, so it's time to start that process over again. So we'll talk a lot more about that tomorrow. So this was really meant to just kind of get things moving again for me, and to also be able to just check in with you guys and see what's going on. I'm going to check in with the stream is working right now. So yes, everything looks good right now, and I'm really, really grateful for that. And I'm really grateful that you all are here. I appreciate each and every one of you so much. My Subscribe Star patrons for being patient, since there hasn't been any content in the last like 5 days or so. But I appreciate you guys so much. And, it's important to keep your mind open to new beginnings, of course, especially right now. Just because something is ending doesn't mean that there isn't space for new things to come forward. And this is, I think, a big part of what's going on right now. And there will be all kinds of tells, right? That's what Imbolc and, Imbolc and Groundhog's Day. And, that's, if you think about Groundhog's Day, right? Like, you don't get to move on until you've like come to terms with some aspect of the cycle that needs to be addressed or dealt with or whatever. But it's the idea that it's time to start setting the stage for the next cycle. And maybe there needs to be some real, really strong overhaul in order to do that. And for me personally, I feel like that came in my actual physical, first house stuff is your subjective experience, and it's your physical persona, and it's your actual, identity that you present to the world and to yourself. And so when for me going through this, getting the kooky roo right now, right at the new moon like that, and with the sun and Saturn involved as well, and very close to like all of my, in a sextile to a lot of my Sag stuff in the 11th house. Like, this is a big part of like my own personal overhaul right now, that I did not anticipate, but I should have, because my dreams have just been absolutely outrageous. I can't believe how outrageous they've been in the last week or so, since, certainly at an astral level, I have not stopped. It's just the body is going through an upgrade that is clearly necessary. And sometimes it's in these situations that we really hate and that they're uncomfortable and we don't like them and they make us feel bad, that are the areas where we have the most profound experience. And so take it for what it is. All right, I think I'm going to leave it there. I'm pretty tired, guys, after that. And I'm just going to leave it here for now. So I love you guys so much. Thank you for being here. I truly appreciate each and every one of you. I am still running the special for the Starseed, and I'll bring up the flyer real quick, just in case, right? Because you never know who is interested in their Starseed origins and what that means. So 30-minute recorded reading for only $44. Excuse me. 60-minute reading. These are at a discount. And then the Reiki sessions as an add-on, 30-minute add-on to any service is only $22, which I get a lot of intuitive information. So this is going to be offered up until the full moon on the 16th. And so if you're interested, you can email me directly, or you could send a request through the website. Everything you need is in the description box below in order to reach out to me, in order to go to the website and see what I have to offer. And yeah, so this is what I got for you guys. Thank you so much. We will be tomorrow we'll be together and we'll do the weekly astrology as a stream tomorrow, and then I'll be getting out the forecasts throughout the week, getting ready for this incredible full moon. So I will link that video at in the description box below, not only the Pleiadian revival, but I'm going to link the full moon report that I did. And if you haven't checked out your signs report yet, like your forecast, I would really recommend it, because this full moon is just like, whew, it is incredible. There's a grand square with the full moon and the moon's nodes. Venus and Mars will be in exact conjunction at the same time that that's happening. So there's a lot happening at this full moon that's just going to break loose so much that we want to be ready for it, so that we are not caught off guard. And sometimes being caught off guard is the Uranian way, right? That is Uranus to a T. So keep in mind that as the moon is moving through Taurus today, it makes a connection to Uranus this afternoon. Excuse me. There will be an opportunity to like sink into that revelation on some level, even if it's not totally obvious at that moment. It'll be something that you can sink into and be able to get some sort of insight, maybe not mentally, but in the feels, right? And that's will give some insight perhaps into what to expect that's unexpected, right? But if we expected it, then it wouldn't have the same impact that it would if it's unexpected, which is what Uranus does in the chart, right? It's always the unexpected that seems to get our ass in gear more than anything else. And I certainly didn't expect to get the kooky roo-roo. So that is lighting a fire under my ass in terms of my physical health and wellness, because it's clear that needed to be addressed. So, and that it's making space for something. And considering the fact that Pluto's about to go over my 0 degrees Aquarius ascendant not too long, I'm not surprised that this is happening now, right? I need to be able to be ready for that type of experience. So anybody that has, 0 to 5 degrees Aquarius, for instance, or Leo, I would say in your ascendant, it's going to be a really big overhaul of your personhood when Pluto finally comes out of Capricorn. But we'll talk about that later, guys. So I love you guys. Thank you for being here. I truly appreciate each and every one of you. Everything you need is in the description box below. I appreciate everyone so much, and we will connect tomorrow for the astrology report. So until then, I'll see you on Telegram. Okay, guys? Bye.